Well, hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. We have got a great episode for you this week. Very excited for the conversations we're going to have, the people we're going to hear from, and the exhortations we're going to make to encourage you to get involved in our elections. So we have got a discussion about Kentucky's biggest threats to democracy and to reproductive freedom, and how voters can step up on these critical issues on November 8th. Got Susan Sintra, who is running for Senate in the 34th district. That's going to be in the campaign corner. Then the Colonels are going to be joined by Tamarra Weider to talk about the danger of Amendment 2, what Planned Parenthood is doing to stop it. Then we'll close out with our call to action. So before we get into that, though, are you ready? Are you ready? Ready to help turn Kentucky purple? In 54 days, we're going to pick between Rand Paul and Charles Booker. We're going to pick whether or not we're going to give women any reproductive freedom in our Commonwealth. We're going to decide what type of state house will be in Frankfort to work either with or against Governor Andy Beshear. And these are big decisions, and we need your voice and your vote. If you want a Commonwealth that works for all of us, please join Progress Kentucky. It's super easy to do. Just follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, kind of wherever you spend time on social media. Just make sure to like, share, and comment on our content. If you like what you're hearing here on Kernels of Truth, give us a thumbs up, leave us a review, share out the show, hit like right now if you're watching. Before we get to our guests and our news, I want to check in with our co-host. And like we do every week, let us know who you are, where you are, what does your protest sign say today. And you there watching on the internet, please do tell us what your protest sign says today. There's so much we could be protesting. Lindsey Graham's national abortion ban. That's a good one. That's kind of what I'm protesting. Actually, the whole issue, really, and the whole war on reproductive freedom. That's what I'm protesting. My name's Aaron Viles. I'm coming to you from Childsburg, which is a subdivision of Lexington. And my sign says today, against abortion, don't have one. It's a classic. I think it does the trick. How about let's check in with our lovely co-host this evening, Doug Price. How are you?
Well, I'm quite lovely. I appreciate the compliment. I'm Doug Price, coming to you from Harrison County. There's plenty of farmland around here, and property prices are cheaper, so come check us out. I have an actual sign tonight. Well, a picture of a sign. Let me hold it up here. Get it right on the screen. Vote, our democracy depends on it. This is from the League of Women Voters.
Nice. That's a good one. I think our democracy does depend on us voting. There are some threats to our democracy out there. And I think, actually, your first story, as we roll into news of the week, your first story very much talks about that threat to democracy. So, Doug, why don't you take it away?
Certainly. The story I'm going to talk about is centered around Adrienne Southworth. She is a Republican senator, a Kentucky Republican senator from Anderson County. Prior to running for office, she defeated an amazing progressive, Joe Gravis. Prior to that, she was a deputy chief of state for Bevin's lieutenant governor. She believes that the election was stolen from former President Trump, that voting machines are connected to the internet, and many other nefarious items related to previous elections. I found an opinion piece from Joseph Girth of the Louisville Courier-Journal, which provides a great synopsis of some of the wild claims being asserted by Southworth and her cronies. They weave a web that somehow connects former Kentucky Secretary of State Trey Grayson, Harvard University, where Grayson once worked, and the Secure Elections Project, a nonprofit organization that Grayson leads. And they connect that to nefarious efforts to fill vacant government posts in Ukraine several years ago, trying to cover all the bases. They throw in references to Dominions, voting machines, and Kentucky does not use Dominion machines, to the global election management system software, early voting, liberal Democratic activist George Soros, Media Matters founder David Brock, and a mention of the Rothschild family, the European banking dynasty, that is often the focus of anti-Semitic attacks, and well, if your head isn't spinning, it should be. And not a lick of proof of anything. Most recently, Southworth, along with Steve Nipper, who is a former chief of staff for former Lieutenant Governor Jeannie Hampton, held a Restore Election Integrity meeting in Frankfort, where several assertions were made about elections and some other really crazy stuff. You can check this article out from the Frankfort State Journal. And here are some of the highlights. Nipper asserted Trump won the 2020 election and that the 2019 election was stolen from Bevin. Nipper and Southworth showed a video touted as potential proof that the presidential election and the gubernatorial election were stolen. The video was created by Josh Merritt, a favorite source of prominent 2020 presidential election conspiracy theorist Sidney Powell and Mike Lindell. They're all a bunch of friends. They claim that all presidential elections since Ronald Reagan's in 1980 have been rigged with the exception of Trump's victory in 2016. 2016 was supposed to be a pretty smooth process, Nipper said. They had been perfecting this whole switch the votes and had been doing this stuff for quite a while. When 2016 came around, Hillary Clinton was not supposed to lose, but she did. I must note that in my opinion, Southworth and the My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell, Nipper, and Pistachios have the same thing in common. They're all nuts. Our Kentucky Republican Secretary of State, Michael Adams, is not a fan. Here's a quote from Secretary Adams, who was interviewed on Kentucky Fried Politics. It is one thing if it's just some random people, but to have someone in the legislature spreading misinformation is troubling. I'm comforted by the fact that she's not taken seriously as a legislator by other legislators. She doesn't pass legislation. When she offers the motion on the floor, she can't get a second. She has no reputation on credibility in the legislature, so that helps. Recently, I viewed a video clip of the My Pillow guy who was deriding Michael Adams, called him Mike several times, but not Mikey. Sounds like we need to have an MMA match between the two. Maybe Southworth can hold up the cards in between rounds. Adams is also concerned that Southworth's rhetoric and others like her will discourage people from volunteering as poll workers. CNN reports that several states are passing legislation to protect election officials. California recently approved legislation that aims to shield election officials from threats and harassment, becoming the latest state to attempt to confront the wave of abuse against election workers that began in the aftermath of the 2020 election and continues today. In Kentucky, we hope we do not have problems with poll workers being harassed. I would be concerned about Anderson County, the home of Senator Southworth, or perhaps in northern Kentucky area where there seem to be several so-called Liberty candidates. Progress Kentucky encourages people to contact their local county court clerk to find out how to become a poll worker. Alternately, we are providing a link from the State Board of Elections on how to become an election worker. And one other comment, for information on voting, check out this link, ourpeopleourvote.org, and most importantly, register to vote and vote for progressive candidates. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Wow, that I did not realize they had such an elaborate conspiracy cooked up. Really, really interesting stuff there.
It's crazy.
So I don't like Michael Adams. I think he kind of does the bare minimum. But right now, the bare minimum versus what prominent members of the Republican Party would have him do is it's quite a wide divide, right? So I think Adams is a horrible partisan. He was a attorney for the Republican Governors Association, which is a super partisan organization. But I think I'll give him credit where it's due, which is he's pushing back on this craziness really quite deliberately, evocatively. The fact that he's got the My Pillow folk going after him just shows that he's telling the truth. But it is it is strange days that this is part of a, so there are folks out there who look at this and go, yeah, this is rational. This makes sense. Of course.
And the bad thing about it, the more people like Southworth and Lindale and Nipper and all of those other crazy folks, the more they talk about it, the more they rile up the people that, for some reason, seem to listen to that insanity. They've lost every court case that has been looked at, and I think Mike Lindale's telephone was confiscated yesterday, day before, at a Hardee's, maybe in Wisconsin. Am I right about that? He made a big deal about it, and surprise, surprise. He said that he had 5 or 6 businesses, and he kept all the information on his businesses on his phone. He doesn't have a computer.
Wow.
Yeah. He must have a really big phone.
Or poorly run businesses, perhaps. Maybe something of both. I don't know. All right. Well, I do think it's dangerous. It's frightening that this rhetoric is being shared. I absolutely concur with like Joe Girth and Mike Adams that this is just a really problematic strain of our political system. And yeah, if you want to be if you've got election day free, go be a poll worker. If you get election day off or work or something like that, go be a poll worker. Really, really important that we have folks putting the time and energy in who we can trust, who are just doing the job to do the job and to count the votes, to make sure every vote is counted, not to look for conspiracies that don't exist. And it's not just kind of wingnuts on the right. I think we saw, if you pay attention to Twitter, which I'm sorry, there was some woman who was making all these claims about Mitch McConnell clearly stole the election in Kentucky because there were more, he got more votes than there were registered Republicans or something, some like very bad analysis. It's like, oh, look, there are more registered Democrats, and yet he still loses because, they're not from Kentucky. They've got no clue of the kind of cultural shift that's happened in Kentucky. The fact that it was, very much a single party state for decades. And there really only were Democrats in wide swaths of the state. But then, of course, things have changed, and they are not the Nancy Pelosi Democrats. And in fact, but this woman had no clue, had never made a phone call to a Democrat in Kentucky. So, and she's, I think, very much this kind of left voice or something like that. So, people lose the plot frequently and look for, excuses, reasons. I don't know. But the kind of tendency for folks to look at our elections with these kind of conspiracies in their eyes to find things that don't exist is really troubling, right? Because we need faith in our systems. That's how we exist as a democracy. It's that kind of rule of law, faith in the processes that we use to create this democracy. And if you can't trust it, then what's left, right? If you can't trust the free and fair election, then I guess you got to go storm the Capitol or whatever it is. And that's just, we saw what that looked like, and that was just a lot of dead folks, and it's terrifying. So, frightening times to a degree, but let's just stay with the facts, people. There are such things as facts. We can prove certain things. And if you don't have facts on your side, then maybe you should back off what you're saying in your political rhetoric. All right. Anything else you wanted to share, Doug?
Just you mentioned about Mitch McConnell, and I too have seen that, and I just kind of laugh. I mean, if that were true, I guarantee you that I would be all over that. But when they start spouting things, like you said, that the number of registered Democrats, it didn't pan out or something like that, didn't look at the fact that Trump won Kentucky handily, and it just every now and then that pops up. I saw something about a month ago, and it's just one of those stories that won't die, but it really doesn't have any truth to it.
Yeah, but man, she's gotten a lot of likes and retweets on Twitter. Thankfully, Twitter is not real life.
Right.
All right, so we're going to move on to our second story. While we do that, in the midst of that transition, I want to send kind of healing vibes to our dear friend Kimberly, our co-host, regular co-host. She's had some surgery and is kind of coming back from that right now. So that's why she's not with us. She's recovering. So hopefully she'll be back and ready to go next week. Because I know that a lot of our viewers really want to hear what she has to say, and like that she frequently shuts me down. So yeah, we'll be back to rebalance this broadcast next week, hopefully. All right, so we mentioned McConnell. We also feel like we should probably mention Rand Paul, because he's actually the one that's on the ballot in just how many days did I just say? I just said it. That's
54.
54 days? Yeah, man, 54 days. It's coming quick. So I will say this: if you care about Ukraine, if you're standing with Ukraine, you might not want to vote for Rand Paul. So recently, Ukraine's Center for Countering Disinformation announced that it had compiled a list of American citizens who have been promoting Russian propaganda. And guess who's on that list? Yep, Rand Paul. Rand Paul is a propagandist for Russia. Putin's postman tried to block aid to Ukraine. He's constantly kind of echoing some Putin's rhetoric about Ukraine being a former part of Russia, so they've got so there's some explanation for the invasion. He did add there was no justification for the invasion, but there's while there might not be a justification, there's an explanation apparently. He also has problems with NATO. He cited Russians' qualms with the efforts of Ukraine to join NATO, and accused the Biden administration of beating the drums to admit Ukraine to NATO, which I didn't look like they did that at all. They were very kind of rational in their their discussion about whether or not Ukraine should join NATO. So really, Rand Paul is there's so many reasons to not like Rand Paul. But add this to the list. And right now, as Ukraine is in the news, international news, as their heroic feats to repel Russia and actually take back territory from what was thought to be the strongest army in the world, or second strongest army in the world, really is, I think, amazing to watch. It is it's a long, hard slog, and it's not getting any easier. And international pressure needs to be brought to bear, but not on Ukraine, on Russia. So Rand Paul's got it absolutely opposite, and that's what he, on so many issues, that's what he is. He's absolutely opposite of what you'd expect to see and what you'd want to see. So I guess that's kind of where we're going to leave it with stories we're going to cover. Doug, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this issue. I know you did a little digging.
Yeah, you can. I guess you can find almost anything on the internet. But if you'll Google Rand Paul Russian agent, there will be several things that will come up. There might be a discussion about is his neighbor the one that beat him up, or was it somebody else in retaliation or something like that? And I'm not giving any credence whatsoever to any of this. But I did find a reference to his father, Ron Paul, and promoting the United States and Russia getting along. And, Rand visited Putin a couple of years ago, as I understand, at the behest of Trump, and supposedly gave him a note from Trump. None of that has been brought to surface, what was in that, but maybe some of that might have been at Mar-a-Lago, and the FBI is looking at that now. Wouldn't that be something?
Remember, we are the kernels of truth, Doug Price. We're not the kernels of wild speculation. But
that is true.
For sure. Rand Paul's ties to Russia are very interesting. I think there was a crew of Republican senators that went a couple years ago. I think they were there on the 4th of July, which I thought was a very weird place to be, celebrating the 4th of July as a patriotic Republican senator. Rand was not on that trip, but I think it was either right before or right after. A slew of folks heading over there to meet up with Putin, and that's why I called him Putin's postman, because he brought that private letter from Trump to Vladimir Putin. So yeah, it'd be very interesting to see what was in that letter for sure. Do you like me? Check one. Yes or no. Yeah, he was just so gross. Trump was just so gross in how much he adored Putin, strong man, dictator, authoritarian dictator. Yeah, that's where the Republican is these days, though. That's who they like. Or Orban, folks who really don't have much use for democracies unless it provides what they want, the outcomes they want. So, and that's clearly the Republican Party right now. That at least folks who are the ostensible head of it, right? So, Trump is clearly the idea, the fundamentals of democracy are not critical components of the Republicans' take on what we need as a nation, right? They just want the outcome. They just as long as they're guaranteed to win and hold on to their kind of shrinking minority. But so many of our democratic systems are gamed to favor them, right? The Senate, where you've got these super small states, big geographically, small population-wise, that have just as much say and just as much power as California or New York, which have vastly larger populations, right? And that they've been able to gerrymander these districts so effectively that even in the House they're like very close and very tight, and that's annoying. It's certainly annoying. The entire idea of the how we elect the president, the electoral college, as opposed to a direct democratic vote. So it really is. It's interesting to watch it play out. These are the rules, we play by them. But the Republicans are ahead with the rules we have, certainly. But apparently that's not enough of them now. And now they're going to get secretaries of state and governors who are going to be willing to throw out election results if it isn't what they think is legitimate. Which of course would be a Trump win. So very, very frightening stuff. And I think, this is an election that we need to stand up for democracy. As much as I'm a fierce partisan, I'm glad that we do have somebody like Michael Adams kind of at the helm of that election, because he does, as much as he is a Republican, he seems to be doing the bare minimum on a job of ensuring that we have free and fair elections. All right, so that's wrapped it all together. I think at this point we are ready to go, and we're going to move to the campaign corner because, as you know, Doug, and I'm sure many of our viewers recall, we have made a commitment. We're going to bring on a candidate each and every week between now and November 8th because there's just so many elections happening right now, and we really, it's hard to keep track of them all. We're going to do our best to bring you as many who are running great campaigns all around the state with a kind of focus on the bluegrass. So tonight we are really, really excited to be joined by Susan Sintra, who is running in the 34th district, which includes some of Fayette County, but all of Madison County. And Susan, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you all inviting me to come do this. Thanks for that.
Well, I started following her on Facebook, and I just realized, she's not phoning in this campaign. She is working her tail off, and anyone who is putting that much time and energy into fighting this this uphill battle, I just wanted to highlight the work you're doing, because I think it's really important that we know and recognize the folks who are working hard for our votes and really do want to challenge the status quo, and that I think is absolutely you. So tell us a little bit about you, Susan. Kind of what's your bio? What made you want to run for office, and how's it going?
All right. Well, yeah, I have been working a lot. It's a lot, and I'm coming off of COVID, so excuse me if I cough for a little bit, but came through that pretty well. I'm a teacher. I've been teaching high school English for about the past 19 years. And I'm the president of our Teachers Association for the county. So I took over how I came into this. I took over that role about a week before the sewer bill passed. And if you remember that tumultuous fun time, about a week before that passed, I became president, and it was sort of baptism by fire, thrown into this world of advocacy and trying to stand up for our educators and for our profession and for our students and for public education. And so since then, I've just been rolling with it and seeing that. And so fell into it that way. I was approached about, I thought about running, before. So I went through the Emerge program, didn't really think that I would run until after I retired. I've got 4 kids, one who she's a senior in college, and one who is a sophomore who goes to my school, which is really fun. I get to embarrass him a whole lot. Then I have an 8th grader and a 4th grader. So, it's not that I'm sitting around not doing much, but it's a busy time, but knowing that I have to be this person for, show my kids what I stand for and give them the strength to do these things is incredibly important. So when I was approached to run, had that conversation with my kids, thought about it, talked to several different people. And honestly, what made the final decision to run right now was after having these conversations and talking with Tina Bojanowski was one of the first calls that I made as an active legislator, the only active teacher who's in the legislature. I wanted her opinion. And after I spoke with her, the next day I went into school and was thinking about it, standing in the hallway. This former student that I had as a sophomore who was a senior last year, he is in an education pathway, wants to become a teacher. So he stopped me in the hallway and he said, "Miss Cintra, I have to tell you what happened." He had done an observation at this elementary school. He said, "I have to tell you what happened." He said he was in the classroom and he was talking to, or he was watching what was going on. And there was a little boy who was trying to get the teacher's attention, but he could tell he wasn't asserting himself. He was a little shy and was nervous. So my student went over and helped him speak up, got the teacher's attention and helped him figure out that situation. And my kid said, "Miss Cintra, I use my voice to help somebody else, just the way you've always taught us to." And I was like, okay, well, that's the moment. I guess I'm going to run. And
that's awesome. That's so awesome. And so just in case folks don't know, the sewer bill, that was, of course, Matt Bevin's efforts and the Republican supermajority in Frankfurt's efforts to absolutely, change the retirement system for teachers and try to make it far less, something folks can bank on, something that, that you could actually retire on. And so, I think a lot of folks were kind of woken up to the importance of politics and the importance of what happens in Frankfurt by that. I'm glad to see you were as well. And it sounds like it sounds like you've got the right motivations to do it. How is the campaign going for you?
It's going really well. We've been out, full steam ahead. We had goals of knocking on close to 500 doors every week during the summer. Was able to hit that most of the weeks, minus some weather issues. But yeah, we've been out knocking doors. We've got a huge fundraising, not fundraising. We have a huge meet and greet and two canvassing opportunities, big ones coming up soon. This weekend on Saturday, Lamine Swan, who is running for the House rep in District 93, he and I will be, we'll have a meet and greet at Common Grounds, which is the little coffee shop off Heartland Parkway, if you're out in that area, from 9 to 10. And sorry, a kid's coming in. From 9 to 10 Saturday morning. And then we're going to go out canvassing after that together. And that's this coming Saturday. Then the next Saturday we have, hold on, child is here. Sorry. The next Saturday we have with the Kentucky Young Democrats, they've organized a big canvassing event, the Democratic Day of Action, for myself and Sherilyn Stevenson and Lamine Swan. So we'll be doing that in Lexington as well. So lots of things going on. And all those events are posted on my website, which is Susan Cintra 4KYFORKY.com.
Awesome.
All that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll find some of those and we will share them as well in the comments or in the show notes rather. All right. So one thing, we're checking in with every single candidate that we talk to make sure that they're people we want to spotlight. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're pro teacher. That seems pretty clear.
Yeah.
Are you also pro Andy?
Absolutely. Yeah. Listen, I will say this. When this county, Madison County, flipped for Andy in the last election, and myself and several of our other teachers, I don't know how many doors I knocked on that. I think like we busted our butts on that. And now when I'm going back and canvassing for myself, I'm like, why does this house look familiar? Oh yeah, I've already been there. And people are like, oh, hey, I know you, because I've seriously knocked on so many doors in this county for that. So yes, absolutely pro Andy.
Awesome. And then the most important, I think, when it comes to this election right now, are you pro reproductive freedom?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Last night, this has been an interesting thing out at the doors. Last night when I was knocking on a door, I had on my like Susan Sintra for State Senate t-shirt, whatever, knocked on the door. This woman came to the door and she clearly saw what I was doing. She said, let me stop you. I have one question. She said, I've never been a one issue voter ever in my life, but I'm done now. Are you for bodily autonomy for women? And I said, yes. And she said, you have my vote. How can I help? What do you need? And so
Oh, wow.
that was pretty awesome. So yeah, yes, absolutely. 100% there.
Awesome. Well, and I know that, I'm pretty sure your opponent can't say the same for all those three important questions. He's part of that super duper majority that's standing in the way of Andy getting things done in Frankfurt for us. He's, been voted to take away his power. He's not maybe as radical as, Cavanna Maddox or, Southworth, but he's absolutely Republican, and he's got some problems, I think. So I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you like taking the time as you're recovering and juggling kids and a full-time job, which, not like this is a busy time of the year for teachers. So really amazing to see you just step up and do the thing and answer the call. So thank you, Susan.
No, you're welcome. Let me also say too that the redistricting was one that I think this is the only district in the Senate that improved for Democrats. So it's important to note that we ended up losing. It used to be Rockcastle, Madison, and Southern Fayette. We lost Rockcastle County and we gained more space in Fayette County. So absolutely a big important race here.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think Madison County is like, I feel like we should never write it off, right? The fact you've noted that it went for Andy, and that's, if we can crack the code in Madison County, like Democrats' fortunes improve for sure. But I think this election, really, that makes a huge difference. Like you said, the person you met that was a single issue voter, despite not wanting to be.
Right.
This is such a fundamental freedom that is clearly on the ballot. As long as we kind of connect you to that issue, I think a lot more voters are going to like, I guess maybe this is the year we break with Republicans.
That also made me, I thought of one more event. Sorry, let me throw this one out there too. On Sunday from 1 until 3, if you are a former student of mine, come out and hang out with me. We're going to go knock on doors. We're meeting at, oh my gosh, Purdy's off Big Hill Avenue at 1 o'clock. So we're going to go knock doors. All my former students who want to come and get invested in this political game. That's right. Do you want to come say hello? Come here really quick. No, everyone's upstairs.
Yeah, no,
time. Sorry.
I get it. I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt. But yeah, I do appreciate your time. I appreciate that it's a busy season for everything you're doing. But yeah, we appreciate that you're doing the right work and get out there and knock on those doors. It's awesome that you got so many events ready to go. It's clear you're not just putting your name on the ballot and letting that stand.
We're doing it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys, and I love what you all are doing too. So thanks for that.
Cool. Well, have a great night and good luck. And we'll check back in, after the election and see how things go.
All right. Talk to you then.
Great work.
Thank you so much, both of you.
All right. So that was Susan Sintra, who is, just an absolute just breath of fresh air, I think. And, the kind of candidate you want to have on the ballot, working hard, working to share her views with as many voters one-on-one, doing the doors, even, while recovering from COVID and balancing poor kids and a very demanding job. So, all right. So that issue we did mention, the Amendment 2, we're about to do a deep dive. We are very honored to bring you tonight, Tamarra Weider, who is been on this show a couple of times. Really just an amazing powerhouse for reproductive justice and freedom in Kentucky, and really happy to show you this interview. So thank you so much for joining us to talk about what's going on in the huge political concerns and campaigns around reproductive access in the state of Kentucky. We know that the biggest priority has got to be Amendment 2. Can you describe for our viewers kind of what Amendment 2 is and why it's so important?
Yeah, Amendment 2 specifically says that to protect human life, nothing in our Constitution shall be construed to protect abortion or the funding for abortion. So it is absolute. Nothing can protect abortion if Amendment 2 passes. And that is without any exemptions. I mean, that is nothing, nothing. So rape, incest, life of the mother, no fetal viability, all of that becomes moot if this passes. And it also opens a way for the GOP in Frankfurt to attack birth control, which we've already heard is next on the line.
And that's terrifying. So what we do know, though, is that currently in the state of Kentucky, there's a trigger, there's a trigger bill, right, or trigger law. So because Roe was overturned, they kind of moved immediately. Dan Cameron obviously spending a lot of his time trying to make abortion, restrict abortion in the state. So it seemed like there's a lot of legal back and forth. Where do things stand now with the trigger bill?
Sure. So the trigger ban, which was passed in 2019, was passed to trigger if anything happened with Roe. Roe was taken away in full or in part, and we know that Roe was completely dismantled. We were one of about 6 states that had an immediate ban on abortion after Roe fell in June. And so we've been back and forth, like you said, in the courts. We had a temporary injunction. We lost it, though, on August 1st. The Court of Appeals said that Daniel Cameron was allowed to use his powers to take back the injunction. But there is nothing within what the Court of Appeal said. They specifically said it wasn't on the merits of our case, and it was actually on 2 bills, the trigger ban and the 6-week ban. So there was nothing in our case that merited the injunction, only Daniel Cameron's powers as Attorney General and the powers that he has over abortion facilities. But everything is on hold now pending the election. And the Supreme Court of Kentucky was very clear that the next steps will be made known by the general populace of Kentucky. So how Amendment 2 pans out in November decides our reproductive health access.
So basically, it's kind of all hands on deck on this amendment, because when this is decided, that will instruct kind of everything moving forward, basically.
Correct. So if we lose this amendment, that it passes, then there is no pathway forward for abortion access because the Constitution will have changed. Right now, though, the Kentucky Constitution has very broad protections on privacy. And we have found, and so has the lower courts, that it protects abortion access. That the privacy protections in our Kentucky Supreme Court is even broader than that of the federal Constitution. And so we have a really good case as long as we keep the Constitution free and clear of Amendment 2.
This is for all the marbles, basically.
Yes.
November 8th is for all the marbles. It's interesting, because when they put that amendment on the ballot, Roe had not fallen, right? And I don't know, this is just conjecture on my part, but it felt like they were doing it because they wanted to drive turnout on November 8th for their side, right? The conservative Republicans wanted to have something on the ballot to get all their troops fired up in a midterm election and to go support Rand Paul. It seems like since Roe has fallen, this is, if we're looking around the country at least, and in states and areas that aren't, crazy liberal, right? This is working in the exact opposite, because now there's that awareness of what's truly at stake. What do you think about that?
Yeah, we've definitely seen shifts in the believability that Roe's going away. We don't have to say that Roe's going away, because unfortunately it has. So when we were first trying to mobilize people against this amendment, there wasn't a lot of urgency around what the next steps were. However, as we know, this was a long planned strategy from the right to dismantle reproductive health care and our access to abortion and even birth control. But now, as we look across the states, as we look to neighbors like Kansas, who had a very similar amendment on, they defeated it soundly. And as we know in Kentucky, I mean, the Democratic Governors Association did a poll before Roe fell. And, it was a week or two after Roe fell, and 62% of Kentuckians were opposed to the constitutional amendment from that poll. And I know from the research that we've done this past year for Protect Kentucky Access, that Kentucky really is not an outlier to the national attitudes on abortion. People really understand that pregnancy is complicated. They are tired of the government mandating their healthcare without concern of, what their doctor thinks is best for them. And, Kentuckians are going to defeat this because, we also live in a state that has a reproductive health desert. Over 60% of our counties don't even have a practicing OBGYN. People are already struggling to get care, and they know that this is going to make it harder for them. We also have been really smart and strategic in how we were doing our work for Protect Kentucky Access. We have the same team pretty much as Kansas had. We've had the same general consultants and pollsters since January. And we also were lucky, just less than a month ago, we brought on Rachel Sweet as our campaign manager, and she was the campaign manager of the successful Kansas campaign.
That's awesome. So in case people have missed it, Protect Kentucky Access, what exactly is that?
Yes, Protect Kentucky Access is the coalition that's working to defeat Amendment 2. We are a broad coalition. We have a leadership team of 7 members from across our affiliate. There are some usual suspects like Planned Parenthood. I co-chair the committee. We have the Fairness Campaign. We have the ACLU of Kentucky. We have Sister Song, who I share my co-chair with. We also have Granny's Birthing Initiative, a Black maternal health group that focuses on Black midwives and doulas and how important they are in the community. We also have Kentucky Health Justice Network and the Kentucky Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice.
I love that one. The idea that, in fact, you can be religious and be very supportive of people's reproductive freedom. It's not just an issue that is owned by the right wing, for sure. So sounds like a wonderful organization. Sounds like you've got a great plan and you've got a great leadership team. What do you think is kind of the most important thing for people to be doing in the next, 8 weeks, between now and November 8th, to really make sure that we follow Kansas, and that we that clear precedent that was set is one that we go there too, in terms of making sure that we protect the freedom of people who can get pregnant to have the full slate of reproductive options in front of them into the future.
Yeah, I think depending what you can give, be it monetary, your time, a phone call, that we need all hands on deck here. And there is so many ways that you can plug into the campaign. You can knock doors, you can text bank, you can do postcarding, you can, do regular phone banking, and you can also donate. And I think, it is so important that we are this wall of sound to make sure that we get out in front of all of the obstacles that, some campaigns may have, to make sure that we resoundingly turn out against Amendment 2. And we're on our way there, and there's so many ways to plug in.
That's wonderful. And I guess I'm going to ask you one more question, and then see if Doug has something he would like to check in on. But so just make sure I'm super clear on this. So we have to win on the No on Amendment 2 campaign to make sure that women have any chance at all of getting access to abortion care in the state. You're also saying that if we don't do this, the Republicans could have a chance at actually doing things to limit birth control, or even kind of more egregious and more kind of intruding on our freedoms. But what about because then say that the Republicans have, again, their kind of huge super duper majority in Frankfurt, and obviously it kind of doesn't matter what Andy does in these issues, because they seem to override his vetoes as kind of matter of course. What does it look like in Frankfurt after if we win, which of course we will, right? We've got to work really hard, but of course we'll win. If we win that and we say no, can they? There are more hijinks the Republicans can do with their super duper majorities to get in the way of reproductive access in the state of Kentucky.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure that they will find new ways to compromise our health and safety. We see it every year, but one of the things that has been steadfast and we need to protect are the courts. There are a lot of judicial races that are up for election this year, and they are just as important as Amendment 2. When I look at, certain races like, Representative Joe Fisher's in Northern Kentucky, like that is a race that, if he was on the Supreme Court of Kentucky, would have dire ramifications for reproductive health and other social justice issues moving forward. And you see that Right to Life released their judicial endorsements. So I recommend going to their PAC and, make sure that people understand what those endorsements mean for our reproductive autonomy moving forward. And I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah. So clearly the courts are really important. We've been talking about the courts and how important they are, but legislative leadership as well. So clearly, if you want a legislature that is willing to play games and limit women's ability to get access healthcare, reproductive healthcare, you got to think about it, right? Because they've got it's all connected. And while it's very clear that, we've got to vote no on 2, we also have to inform ourselves as voters to look at, the entire slate, right? And it's like, I know that my legislators, he's a nice guy. I've met him at the, the fair or whatever. But, he probably voted for HB 3, right? The omnibus abortion restriction bill, right? So these guys have a track record that we should find out. If we are, if we're paying attention to who's on our ballot, we're fired up. We know we got to vote against Amendment 2, but there's so much more where, we got to do a little due diligence to figure out, right? Because I know that this is an issue that people are very passionate about, as they should be, and it's going to be a very clear decision on that one. But we also need to do some homework to make sure that if we're protecting reproductive justice kind of up and down the ballot, because they can, like you said, they can all have some influence, and unfortunately the way things are trending right now, it's we win there in November, that's awesome, but it's not like we can stop fighting, right?
No, we can't. And we really have to look at the other candidates running for office there. Planned Parenthood just released their endorsements as well. We endorsed 25 candidates in the state, which is our biggest to date of our endorsements. And there are people who are running in Muhlenberg County who really need your help. Dr. Brittany Hernandez Stevenson. There is Pam Dossett in House District 8. Like, if you are in a safe district, it's time to start supporting those candidates that are, not in your backyard, and you can do that. When I look at Lamine Swan in Lexington area, when I look at, Tommy Adams, when, we look at Elaine Wilson-Reddy in Danville, these are all areas that people really need to be canvassing for. And then there's Chris Brown up in Northern Kentucky. Like, we have a great slate. And one thing to also think about, if you're not seeing, your district in a Planned Parenthood endorsed race, think about that and think about the next term. It's time for more people to stand up and fight back against, most seats are, non-challenged. So think about your role and how you change and protect Kentucky moving forward.
That is a really important point. And so we'll go ahead and share that list of your endorsed candidates in the chat and in the show notes. You can find out, who you are actually actively backing. And, the other things people can do is look at how your representative voted on HB 3, give a very clear signal of whether they're pro-choice or pro-life, or, what exactly they're doing. and I guess the other one would be looking at the Right to Life crew and just doing the opposite of whatever they tell you to do, right?
I think it's a really great strategy, when you don't know where else to look at who you don't trust and see who they're endorsing. And I'd also, while you look at that vote count from HB3, don't forget to look at, Rachel Roberts' amendment to protect victims of rape and incest that was shot down by 65 members of the General Assembly in the House, and it was shot down in the Senate as well. I look at that because they're running scared now and are, saying that they might pass a bill now on those exemptions. And I think it's really showing how scared they are about how much actually abortion is a uniting issue in Kentucky. Believe it or not, this is not dividing us. This is bringing us together.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, Doug, any final questions for our guest?
Just a quick comment. We have a segment we call Campaign Corner. You've just given us several names of people that I expect will be inviting to Campaign Corner.
Oh, good.
I want to ask you this, and I know you don't really have an answer, but is there anything in the state constitution that says anything about requiring government funding for healthcare?
Not off the top of my head, but I think, it's really important as we look at abortion to be honest about abortion does not have any funding from the government because of the Hyde Amendment. So when people try to say that, it's going to pay, our government dollars are going to abortion, that's completely misleading because there is an amendment called the Hyde Amendment that's been around for a very long time that forbids any funding for abortion care.
So is the expectation is that is in there to try to mislead the public?
Yes.
So seems like maybe some conversations around this issue haven't been, absolutely faithfully rendered. There have been some folks cutting corners, definitely not looking to get the full facts out there. Any political issue tends to get that type of treatment. But Doug, very good that you're kind of paying attention to that for us, I suppose. Any final thoughts you want to share with our viewers before we let you go?
I just want them to, talk to their friends and family. This is, I've been doing this work for a long time and never have I seen the moment for abortion to, be front and center in Kentucky, and win until now. And so this is an exciting moment. Be part of the change that is going to happen.
That's a great note to leave it on. Thank you so much, Tamarra. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, and appreciate your hard work in this very critical time.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. And that was our interview with Tamarra Weider. Really fantastic, amazing woman, and I think a great way to fire up the troops, man. Get out there. We gotta stop that thing. Doug, what'd you think?
Yeah, I have been around her before. We've had her on the show too, haven't we?
Yeah.
Some time ago, and she's amazing. She had none of these questions in advance, and she just was able to snap off the answers. And I'm impressed with her. And we do have to band together and get the word out to vote no on the constitutional amendment too. There's no question about it.
Absolutely. Hey, Doug, where are you going to be on Friday, September 23rd?
Friday, September 23rd. I don't know. What do we got going?
Well, I know where Progress Kentucky is going to be. We are going to be at the Rally for Rights, and it's a big, huge rally for reproductive justice, and it's hosted by Pride and Protest Kentucky, which is kind of a new group that sprung up. But I'm looking at the Facebook event, and there are a lot of people showing up. And we've organized in the past. I've organized an event down there at Courthouse Square, and it is just always so thrilling when you just show up en masse. And you think that it's easy to think there's not very many folks who care passionately about progressive politics in Kentucky. But when you have a great event like that, and I think this one's going to be fantastic, it can really just fire you up and give you that sense of hope that we can win this thing. So I think we're going to try to actually table down there for that. We can. So come out and see us. sign up for our email list. I don't know, get yourself a sticker or a button. If you're a friend of the show, if you watch the show frequently, let me know. We can hook you up with a hat. We got a few hats, perhaps a book. If you've seen the Patriotic Millionaires episode, they sent us a bunch of their books. We got some of their books. We might bring those down. Doug, what do you think? Maybe some giveaways?
I think that'd be a good idea. I do have it on my calendar.
Okay.
And I just must say this. My first rally down there was when I met you. And that's when you picked me out of the crowd and said, I think you can help me bring that light down the hill. The thing about run over me, but that was a fun time. And I've enjoyed getting to know you and being involved with the Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee and also with Progress Kentucky. We're doing great work. And we
getting involved. What do you mean? You mean founding the organization? You were. Yeah. No, I do remember that light. it was pretty heavy, and we needed a few extra bodies to make sure we could position it. Sandy, I went out and he had a hitch on his truck, so he was somehow tapped to go pick it up at the rental yard and bring it down. But yeah, that was a great rally. That really was. I hope this one. I don't think this one needs lights. I think it's at 5:30, so maybe it's not going to be dark.
Right.
But somebody wants a hat. Progress Kentucky wants a hat. I don't know who that is. Yes, Progress Kentucky, you can have a hat. All right, so let's do the rest of our call to action, and then maybe Doug, you want to close us out after that?
Sure.
So we've got Voter Registration Day. That is September 20th. If you want to help Progress Kentucky get out and register voters, let us know. We'd like to organize like a week of action on the September the 20th. Open to good ideas and good locations. Need to build the buzz about the November election. Make sure we've got as many voters registered and engaged as possible. So please do hit us up if you're interested. We also wanted to point out Election Central. Our friends at Forward Kentucky have a great resource to hear more about the candidates, see who's getting money from whom, who's being endorsed, all in kind of one spot, and that is Election Central. Really do like the work that Bruce does at Forward Kentucky, and so check it out. All right, so we also, one last time, please take our poll. We want to release it to the media. We're very close to 300 responses, but we could use, 10, 15 more to get to an even 300. We can then say, hey, the media, we had 300 people who told us what was the worst things the Republican supermajority did in Frankfurt that session. And I think the timing's important, right? Because again, people just aren't connecting the dots between what's happening in Frankfurt and who they're electing. We just need to, make it as plain as possible. These guys are working not in our own, in our interests. So that's the poll. Please do take it. It doesn't take too long. You just pick what are the worst actions or inactions. So it's not a fun time being reminded about how horrible they are in Frankfurt. But, sometimes you got to eat your vegetables, I guess. All right. That's what we've got. Doug, why don't you close us out?
Sure. We're back next week with another awesome guest. We'll be speaking with a representative from Moms Demand Action. They're working to make common sense gun safety policies on the ballot in November, and we are here for it. So we can't wait to hear what they're doing and how we can help. Also, we'll have another Kentucky House candidate joining us in the campaign corner, Elaine Wilson Reedy, who is running for House 54th District. That includes Danville and Boyle and Casey counties. Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State. We're organized as a 501c4. We're affiliated with the Indivisible Project and the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement, known as CAVE. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Production this evening was by our very own Annabelle. Thank you, Nate, for the theme song. You can find more information and music at natosongs.com. I think he's working on a new song that has to deal with Rand Paul. If you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook, don't worry, you can rewatch shows and see our source links on Facebook. I missed the show last week and listened to it while I was mowing the other day. Very interesting. Or you can catch it on audio podcasts that are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast. Logo and some graphic content provided by Couchfire Media. More information can be found at couchfiremedia.com. That's the end of the show. Hope to see you next week. Bye.